Everyone, welcome to the September 1st meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. For those present, please take note of the exits around the room in case of mishap, and now join me as we repledge our fealty to the American flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight is a new public hearing for Thomas SEIER. This is an application for ground-mounted solar panels, and this location is 15 Nichris Lane. May I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Wasser is recused tonight because she lives next door and is one of the persons who would be affected by the installation. In the interim, we had some planning board members, including me, Mr. Pickett, and Ms. Weiser. We did a site visit. We made some suggestions for how to better screen it, because that is required under our solar law, which includes planting 5 evergreens. Also to relocate the panel array somewhat south by 20 feet. This we think will be screening it perfectly in about 7 years at the max. Any comments from the consultants? I'm guessing not. Any comments from the board?
Nope.
No?
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak about this application? Ms. Wasser, please join us.
Hi, Stephanie Wasser, 11 Nichris Lane, Staatsburg. I just want to take a minute to thank the board for the site walk and to thank the SEIERs for their cooperation and being such good neighbors. Thank you.
Speaking on behalf of us, you're welcome. We appreciate what you do as well. If there's no other further public comment, make it a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries, and I believe, I'm not sure who's doing this
I
resolution.
have it.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution granting site plan approval, SEIER ground-mounted solar collectors, September 1st, 2021, resolution number 2021-38A. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby waives the submission requirements in section 108-9.4 of the zoning law, as adequate information has been submitted on the plan set and the information is not needed for the processing of this application. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby approves the site plan and authorize the chair or as authorized designee to sign the site plan set after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees in escrow. 2, revision of the site plan
Whoops,
set.
I'm sorry, that's right. That should have been scratched. It's already been revised.
Never mind. 1, payment of all fees in escrow.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. And Ms. Wasser, you're invited back up on the dais. The next item is a new public hearing for Riverview Resubdivision. This is a lot line alteration between lots 1 and 2 located at 6 Dock Street and number 4 Dock Street. Make it a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome back, Mr. Andros. I have none.
Thank you.
I brought the big version.
Thank you.
They've already met the condition.
Thank you.
Is this thing working? It is?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, this subdivision is, well, it's actually, it's a subdivision by
Can you
definition,
hold
but
the mic closer? We can't hear you.
It's the mask.
It's the mask.
isn't it terrible? What do you think? We gonna go for this?
You're 6 feet away.
Yeah, you're right.
Get permission for us.
Okay, great. Basically, this is a lot line alteration. The reduced scale plan that I've passed out has been highlighted just as this one has. And basically what's going to happen is it's about 11,000, 12,000 square feet, known as Parcel A, is going to be added to Lot 2 of a file map, and it's going to be taken away from Lot 1 of a file map. This is going to become Lot 1B, because if you remember, Lot 1A was created over here, and this is going to be Lot 2A, because it's going to be a little bit different than Lot 2 on the previously filed map. So I don't know how much more there is to say about it. I think at the sketch plan, somebody asked why I was going to do this. It's estate planning. I don't plan on exiting this world, but I'm trying to think ahead a little bit. And what I don't want to have happen is for somebody to end up buying this and having a party over here on this island and having a problem with that lot. So that's about it.
Thank you. Any comments from the consultants? Ms. Moss? Yes, Mr. Learn.
I guess I'm just curious, I didn't do the review on this. Can you clarify where the frontage is for Parcel A?
What the what?
The road frontage is for Parcel A?
Do you mean,
For Parcel A, there is no
do you mean
road
1A?
No road frontage? Okay.
because it's being, Parcel A is going to this lot,
Oh, okay, so you're moving it over to that lot. Okay,
Okay.
understood. Sorry.
and it's coming off of this lot.
Okay, gotcha.
So none of the frontage has changed.
So Parcel A is what's moving. Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Any comments
Nope.
from the board?
Nope.
Didn't think so. Is there anyone here from the public who'd like to speak tonight about this application? There being none, may I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have a resolution prepared tonight.
Resolution to approve lot line alteration, Riverview lot line alteration resolution 2021-41A, whereas 7 times. Now therefore it be resolved that the planning board hereby grants the requested waivers. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby conditionally approves the subdivision plot and authorizes the chairperson or his authorized designee to sign the subdivision plot after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees in escrow. 2, permission to file from the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health. 3, approval of deed from Hyde Park Landing, limited to Pete J. Andros, conveying parcel A by the planning board attorney. If the deed is to be recorded after the filing of the plot, an undertaking to record the deed in the office of the Dutchess County Clerk shall be provided by the applicant's attorney. 4, approval of the declaration of utility easement across proposed Lot 2A in form and substance by the planning board attorney. If the declaration is to be recorded after the filing of the plot, an undertaking to record the declaration in the office of the Dutchess County Clerk shall be provided by the applicant's attorney.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Pete. Thanks.
Thanks for coming out.
The next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for 64 FALLKILL Road. As a reminder, the applicant is seeking to make a 2-lot subdivision, which was already approved, but not signed yet, as well as site plan. Make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved?
Is there a second?
Of course,
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion carries. In the interim, I did not ask the applicant's representatives to be present tonight. If you'll recall, we were planning on closing the public hearing. We were here to hear any other public comment, of course, but we had some discussions, basically, about the order of the site plan and what information needed to be in there. Mr. Scott has now sent 1 copy in hard copy for us, the plan set. That will be reviewed by Mr. Sotero and Ms. Moss. And assuming that it's all in the right order, we should be able to approve at our next meeting on October 6th. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak about this application tonight? Any comments from consultants? Any comments from the board?
Nope.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And we'll put this on for the October 6th agenda to take potential action. The next item on the agenda is a continued workshop item. This is for Camp Victory Lakes Master Site Plan and Phase 1. In Phase 1, there's going to be what we call a sanctuary, but it's also multi-programming. We've had a new submission since our last meeting, and we're here to discuss it tonight. And take your time, Peter.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming out on this soggy day. So yeah, just another recap. So we prepared another submission, this one for the 47,130 square foot building footprint. Our newest submission provided more in-depth plans, including erosion sediment control plans, landscaping, lighting, and all of the things necessary for a level of site development. Generally, I'm here to receive feedback from the board and discuss your email that was sent to me earlier this week, just about some outstanding items that we prepared to submit in our next submission, and really just get some general feedback on this more full submission. Just again, included as part of this application is the building, plus additional parking areas, including bus parking in the northern section of the site and around the building itself. Also proposed relocation of cabins, and associated site degrading. As a recap, I went to the ZBA meeting last week where we discussed the requested variances, one for the stream corridor buffer and one for the height. After some interpretation, and I believe I have to talk to Tad a little more about the building height itself, it sounded like the ZBA board was okay with the application to proceed, and they worked to schedule a public hearing for the next ZBA meeting. Other than that, that's just the general recap, and I'd love to get some comments.
Thank you. I'll note first that our planning consultant, Bonnie Franson, sent a memo today that's rather extensive. If any board members want to comment on that one, please feel free to do so as well, so she's not here tonight. So let me start with Mr. Learn. Any comments?
So we have issued an August
And memos,
30th comment
yeah.
memo. I'll just hit some of the highlights. There's bus parking proposed across the creek by the wastewater treatment plant. It looks like there's some improvements that are going to be needed to the existing driveway, including widening, possibly some improvements to the culverts themselves. And most likely, it looks like there's going to be some grading of that hill there that's going to be necessary. We'll need to see those improvements. Traffic, we took a look at those, but the main thing there is we want to make sure that the county has reviewed that and accepted it, since it is a county road. That will be a critical element before site plan approval. We noted the phasing plan, which is a little hard to read. We're kind of looking for a few changes to make that a little more legible, but it happens a lot. Us engineers have an idea of how things are going to go, and then the contractor gets involved and they go a completely different way. So we'd just like to see a note that, it may need to be updated once the contractor gets involved and on board. We also noted the large event plan, which is, we have a few questions about the handicap parking and how that'll be handled. If additional parking will be needed near the event center, or if some other means will be provided. We'd also like the fire department to weigh in on that plan. And the county does have a large event permit. We're not clear on the size that triggers that permit, but we think that the county probably will need to weigh in on this plan as well. Those are pretty much the highlights. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you. Ms. Moss, any comments? No. Mr. Logan, any comments?
I'll just provide some context from the ZBA meeting from last week. One of the questions that we were going over is the extent of the, can you hear me?
That's better.
Was the extent of the stream corridor encroachment. It looks like it's basically going to be 0. And we're going to be getting an amended area variance application, which just shows that. we discussed the visual impact of the increased height of the building and how having a visual analysis would help the ZBA make its decision, just as it would likely help you. And that is about it for us.
Thank you. Let me start to my right. Ms. DiNapoli, any comments?
Yes, to follow up on Patrick's comment about the visual, and I know we had gotten printout of what the road would look like with the arrows of where the building would be. That was really very difficult for me to kind of ascertain exactly what the impact would be. I don't know what else could be done to make it.
I believe that Ms. Franson is going to coordinate with the applicant's
With them?
representatives about a visual simulation, basically, I think, just inserting photo
That's what
sims
I-
inside
okay.
it.
Yeah, do you mind if I just quickly
Sure.
speak on that? So the reason I prepared that exhibit was that we were discussing initially what
Receptor points.
sort of visual analysis was going to be required. So I've kind of prepared that to give the board a little flavor of where the viewpoints would be okay, where we should start generating these visual analyses from. And so I would actually love feedback on that, because right after this meeting, I'm going to be speaking with the architect to see if they can provide us some more visual renderings, kind of reflecting the landscaping more in detail of the building elevations themselves. So yeah, I just wanted to just address that.
In other words, all of us, if we had a chance to see what the pictures and the vantage points, so
Right.
we'd looking at those proper receptor points, just like we did for the cell phone tower.
Two other quick points. When you're doing up the light poles, just a reminder that they need to be the same color from top to bottom. So if you're doing a concrete base, the concrete base has to be the same color as the pole.
Okay, so like a black pole, it needs a black
Well,
concrete paste.
absolutely. And this is truly not in my purview, but the fencing that you're proposing, it's a wooden fence?
For which area? Are you talking about around the mechanical enclosure?
Yeah.
So typically what we use for mechanical enclosure is a chain link fence with some vinyl inserts. So we were
Okay.
thinking more of an evergreen insert to go in, so it kind of blends in with the green hillside and the proposed landscaping we were going to
But
do.
you'll have the inserts?
Yes.
Okay, I'm all right. Thank you.
Mr. Oliver?
Thank you for your presentation, and I think that visual analysis will really help us, kind of see how that building tucks into the hillside with that increased elevation. But other than that, I don't have anything more to add. Thank you.
All right.
Ms. Dexter?
I like how all of the detail is starting to come together. Some of our previous concerns have already been addressed, so I'm very happy to see that. Looking forward to the simulation, but again, I'm not too concerned. It's a lovely,
Yeah, I really think
it's going to be architecturally nice, and again, just because of how it's right next door to a block concrete
giant tall building.
thing, it's going to be so much nicer.
And just to kind of touch base on the landscaping side of things, we don't want to screen it too much because, again, this is going to be more of a visually appealing building. So again, I just want to get kind of the board's discussion on how much landscaping should be presented. Obviously, it should be there should be additional landscaping provided, but again, we don't want to hide it. So I would love more feedback on that from you guys as well.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, things like mechanicals, and anything like that, that's where I like to see screening, so that you're not jarred from looking at something nice by going, oh,
What's that?
Big,
Ew.
what's that big gigantic compressor unit
Yep,
thing?
I getcha.
Yeah.
I'm just going to insert here before I call on Ms. Wasser to point out that, I'm sorry, I can't remember which date it was, but that Mr. Oliver weighed in on landscaping from if you're traveling south on North Quaker Lane. And his comment was is that you should clump the planting instead of doing it in a row, because we want to actually have some corridor views as you go through of the architecture. And I have that everyone who spoke after them agreed. So,
Okay. Yeah, I had kind of clumped them into threes. So if you want more clumping or having them staggered even further apart, that would be generally like how I would have done it. So again, If you guys have comments on that, I'd love to hear them.
You know, clumping
No,
at
I
three
don't think
is
so. Bonnie
ideal,
asked
that way it
about
gives you, you know.
Yeah, it gives you that
yeah,
natural
it gives
feel.
You know, you can see the building still without,
Mm-hmm.
you know, having that formal line.
Yeah, it looks more woodsy. That's what we're going for.
And I'll also add here that the board's policy has been specifically to ask really for more manicured, sort of fussy landscaping as you get closer and closer to the center of town.
Mm-hmm.
As you go to the margins, we've been asking for native plants, things that more blend in to give you the idea that you're in the country again, not in an urban environment. And I think you've achieved that here myself.
Awesome.
Let me go on to Ms. Wasser. Stephanie?
Hi, thank you, and I'm enjoying watching it come together. I would add, just picking up on the screening issue, to make sure that the parking lots have also some, appropriate screening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to speak specifically to it. You may have addressed it sufficiently, I don't know. I don't recall, but I think that's another area that if there's a big section of asphalt, that also needs a screening. Grouping, I'll say, not clumping. And I think our consultants did an excellent job on their reviews. I really have nothing more to add. Thank you.
Mr. Pickett?
Yes, he's had a chance, has he seen Bonnie's notes or need emphasis on them?
Yeah, I received the notes earlier today, so I did a quick review of them before the meeting.
Okay, so noted in there's the color palette for the various buildings, so we
Yep.
get a little better nod as to what's going on there. Obviously, the location of the septic system, you don't want to be interfering with that when you're doing construction.
I could comment on that as well.
Okay,
The existing building is actually piped into the wastewater treatment plant, so that will again just be readjusted to reconnect.
okay. All right. Have we got detailed as far as lighting types? Because in there, Bonnie mentioned that, do we want decorative or what type of lighting we want to fit the architecture? Any other inputs on that?
We did not have all the details yet on that. I think that's what Bonnie was asking us to kind of weigh in to say, do you want something that's charming or more utilitarian?
So I could give you a little kind of idea. So for our parking areas, we typically use standard area lighting. They're standard poles that you would see, a little more sleek. Our personal design is to have a more of a thinner light fixture. And then around the building, we're going to have, at the major entrances, a little bit brighter wall sconces, and then some more accent lighting that kind of highlights the sides of the building and gives it that nice like glow and really accentuates how it looks.
Okay. So that will be coming in the details. Another comment you made was that, at least I've seen, there seems to be some conflict between the grading plan versus what type of vegetation that's existing and what's going to remain and what's going to be used for the future. So there seems to be conflicts as to
Yeah,
where the
needs
contractor's going to go versus what's in the plan. So
Gotcha.
that needs to be worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the, with regards to the photo simulation, look forward to seeing that. I would.
All right.
Thank you, Brent. Ms. Weiser?
So regarding the lighting, I do think sleek is a good description for the type of lighting that would, rather than charming, that
Mhm.
would be more appropriate for the building.
Okay.
So, and then I have nothing to add to the extensive notes that our consultants and colleagues have given you, and I just want to let you know we appreciate your thorough responses to all of our questions and comments.
Thank you. I appreciate all the actual questions and comments. Not very often we get such an involved board.
Yay, go us.
I'm not sure what to say about that. However,
Thank you.
however, so I don't,
Yeah, exactly.
we'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
I think I meant it as a compliment.
Thank you. I don't really have any additional comments myself, just some sort of directives. I don't know that we need to revise the EAF, but we need to check on that because we don't have a new one. And we do need the traffic impact study. I know we talked about that last time about adding in the ITE numbers instead of just taking what the only reason why I'm saying this is because I would hate to send this over to DCDPW, Dutchess County Department of Public Works, DCDPW, and have it sent back because it doesn't have the standard ITE in there.
So
Typically, they want to see a comparison between what the traffic engineers, international traffic engineers say will happen, be generated based on size, use, et cetera, as well as the more refined numbers we'll say from the applicant. Because I trust what you're saying, but I want to reduce the time that this takes to get reviewed.
Absolutely. So just we've been working with the traffic consultant to get these numbers generated. So to just kind of give the board a little background, the standard ITE numbers are a little difficult to generate for a camp because there's a variety of different uses, none of which are operating on a daily basis. So our traffic engineer actually just got us the revised report, responses to all the comments, and he kind of explains it out very well. So I was wondering, does the board want to see that before an initial submission to the Dutchess County Department of Public Works, or should we just get it out there and see if we could get some comments on that from them?
Are you asking whether that you should be, just go ahead and send it yourself to Dutchess County Department of Public Works?
Correct, and because we initially discussed having a preliminary information sent to them to try to get their responses.
I would agree that you can send that to them, but without us seeing it.
Okay.
Get that started as soon as you can.
Perfect.
And because as long as you have explanations in there as to why the numbers may not look like what the ITE manual is, I think they'll accept it.
Okay.
But they're also pretty far behind in terms of reviews, so yes, please send it over.
That seems to be everyone these days, so absolutely.
And then the other issue that we need is just the visual, the photo simulations, and I'll just say straight out, I think that the receptor points you proposed are just fine. I also, like Vice Chair Dexter, agree. This is really attractive architecture. This is something that you want to have a little bit of glimpses of. And in Ms. Franson's memo today, one of the things she talked about was showing which trees will remain and which trees won't, which is an important issue, but generally speaking, she's still new working with this board. The board would like to just see limits of construction disturbance, and we kind of, the idea of that is that we will probably realize that you're not going to keep everything where it's shown as disturbance. But if there's a significant tree that you want to keep, then you could just consider labeling that somewhere on there, if that makes any sense.
Definitely.
Because our normal requirements under site plan are that trees, I'm forgetting, is it above, it's a DBH above,
18 or 24.
yeah, I think it's 18 inches. Our isolator is supposed to be shown. We typically waive that because it's a burden for surveyors to go out and take a look at all these trees and label them
Especially
on
in the
there.
northern portion of that site.
It's huge,
We'd
just
be
I
out
was
there
saying.
forever.
So you've already, I think, shown us where the area of disturbance is. So I think we're okay on that, but that can kind of help you respond to Ms. Franson. And I already sent her a memo myself,
Okay.
or an email myself, saying this is our general procedure and policy. So if we could get the final revisions or comments to the traffic impact study, the photo sim, and any revised EAF, and I would like to maybe consider circulating for seeker on October 6th. That gives you about a little over a month to get those to us.
Yeah, that's, again, I wanted to start this soon, but I figured I wanted to get in front of the board to see if any other comments needed to be addressed. And so I'm here, and now I got them.
And I read through the large event management plan. I think it's fine.
All right.
I also, I know Pete and Andy just now are sort of questioning whether the county needs to weigh in. I think it's important to remember that, again, you're not redoing any new programming here. The programs stay the same. And as far as I know, because I've lived here 28 years now, I've not seen any personnel outside from the sheriff's office or anything else needing to be directing traffic because there's a lot of buses that come in. So once it gets to them, we'll see if that's necessary, but I think you can probably handle it internally as described inside the plan, but we'll see, because that seems to have been working for the last 28 years, because I haven't heard of accidents or anything over there. And again, for the record, I know that before their events happen, the Hyde Park police are contacted, as well as the county sheriff's department, so that they're aware that there's going to be a lot of activity for about a week and a half. So I think it's been working thus far, as I said. Anyway, we're being kind of brief tonight, but that's really because everybody seems to be satisfied with the way it's going.
Awesome, yeah. I'm very happy it's all coming together, and you guys like the project, and we've been working back and forth to kind of get this going. Because again, they're excited, I'm excited, and it sounds like you guys are excited too, so.
I'm starting to envision seeing this built now. It's what we tend to do up here when we've been looking at the architecture for a while, and when I go by now, I think, this is really going to be improved, this corner. Because it's
Right?
kind of drab right now, to be honest with you.
I was just driving that because that's how I get here, and I'm like, ugh, look at that parking lot. So I'm glad that we can kind of spruce it up and put something something that's going to be nice, that's going to kind of look nice in the community.
I
So,
think it's important to remember that this is a significant investment by the Northeast Conference into our town.
Mhm.
This is not a cheap building. This is pretty nice work.
Yeah.
So, and for that matter, the entire layout, as I said, it's a camp, but it almost looks like an amusement park in some ways.
Right.
If I were a kid, in other words, I'd want to go to everything I could inside and through there. So, last but not least, it's been explained to us before that the Northeastern Conference likes to invite the community in, so there'll be opportunities for members of the community to utilize the spaces.
Mhm.
So,
yeah, we actually envision, once kind of the master plan build out is really fully operational, we would kind of envision that the community would be invited into the facilities to actually enjoy it, you know, because it, again, if built out in its entirety, it's going to be a very fun attraction for the town. It's going to be pretty awesome. So,
in addition, as always, I hear complaints from the young people. Oh my God, I just dated myself. The young people. But anyway, saying there's nothing to do in the town. This is one more thing to do in the town if you're young.
Mhm.
Take advantage of it. So, we'll pencil you in for October 6th if you can get us the other materials.
all right. And it's September 27th is the submission. What was it again?
It's the date is October 6th, but to be honest with you, if you don't have, you're in the pipeline, you're in the process right now. If you can get it in just a week ahead of time, that's all we need it in.
Perfect.
Okay,
All
Doug? Thank you.
Very
much.
cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Safe drives home.
Yeah, thanks.
Call him a whippersnapper. Actually,
You could then refer to me as Mr. Magoo. Speaking of dating myself. The next item is our biggest item for the night, and we're ahead of ourselves in many ways. This is Bellefield at Hyde Park. This is an amended concept plan. This has been referred to us by the town board. They have graciously asked us to be lead agency in terms of seeker. We have had a submission given to us since we had a joint meeting with the town board. There have been newer materials submitted since then. And as a reminder, this would be the largest single project in the history of the town. So it's an exciting time to be back up here. And having immersed myself in all things Bellefield for several days, and nothing but Bellefield for several days, I'm looking forward to starting this review. Larry, take your time. I know you're going to do a little quick presentation for us.
Yeah, Jennifer was going to be here. She's on her way. She said
I'm afraid,
she
like I
was going to be
said,
around 7 time to get
well,
here.
I thought we'd have a longer discussion on Camp Victory Lake, but as you saw, everybody likes what they proposed, so it didn't take long at all. And by the way, I'll be sending you my comments because they're typed up, and I want to apologize in advance on one thing. I started marking up these that we were given before the joint meeting of the town board and the planning board. I was told in an email that they were the exact same as what was submitted to TAD and the town for this review. As it turns out, the amended concept, development plan, secret comparison, technical report, part 1, full EAF, US Route 9, et cetera. This is a little bit different in numbering than what the report is as it got bound. So when I have page numbers, they'll be referring to page numbers from the draft report, and I'll make sure that's clear.
I have mine as a backup.
You will. But that was a bummer. That's what I see when I sat down. It's just like-
Want me to go for it? Yeah, Jennifer said go ahead. She should be ready.
September 1st.
Oh, Michael's not here.
But I'm done with gardening. I'm kind of ready for fall.
Is there a presentation?
Better allergies.
No, I can't.
Lesser allergies.
Presentation mode on that?
Oh, yeah. You know, it's a PDF, so it's not a PowerPoint, so I can scroll through quick. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get going.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Larry Boudreau from the Chazen Companies. I do understand that this meeting tonight is for us to receive the comments, from the board and the consultants. We've worked very hard, as you know, to make this submittal with our team. And just, for the record, we submitted in June 15th. We had quite a robust submittal. We were in front of a joint board meeting on June 28th. Then the town reviewed for completeness, and we had some follow-up comments to that. It was deemed complete and allowed us to be here tonight. So thank you very much for all the help and support. Again, it is a huge effort, and I know you know that with all the submittals that we prepared. But for the purpose of tonight, of showing the main concept plan, which you suggested, and just again, for the public and the record, this development, unlike the last master plan here, it's divided into neighborhoods. So the village is the mixed-use core. The Crescent is where the second hotel is. Of course, the first hotel is bottom right, screen right. The Ridge, a residential area up on the Ridge, back east of the site, because of course here's 9. North is to the left, so back east here. The Terrace is north of the Ridge, and then St. Andrews down here. We wanted to, one of the feedbacks that we were getting is a visual from Route 9, so I wanted to present that tonight on the screen. We worked with Hart Howerton on doing that, and this shows the view from the entrance into Bellefield, the main entrance, which we just built out there, the DOT entrance with the traffic light. Yeah, I can zoom in here a bit. So you can
In the bottom right, you can see the angle by the
Yep.
main entrance,
Yep.
the arrow.
So the entrance is right here. This is the view viewing northeast. And this is, of course, a summer view. What you see here, this is the vineyard area here proposed. The winery is right here. And again, I can go back out. We also show a winter view of it, same view. This is, when they do this, they photograph the site, hold on to what trees we're proposing to save, and then it's supplemented. We've also went further north and then looked down south to the left as you drive south. The entrance, the main entrance where we were just at is right here. So now we're further north, driving south, looking left or east. And again, some of the significant trees were pulled out and rendered and then supplemented with additional landscaping. We have these all here, which we can hand out. Here, there is the winter view. The other thing that we provided in the completeness response was knowing what the next phase of the project would be, and so we defined a construction phase 2A. Of course, the first construction phase of the hotel is here. This included the force main and the wastewater treatment plant. which is here. And then in this presentation here, we did break down the mix of residential and non-residential, and the percentages of each of those, which is 59.5 for residential and 40.5 for non-residential. And again, this was submitted to you, so you had this. We're just presenting it here. And the reason why we did is our next view is a bird's eye view looking southeast at phase 2A. And there it is. So bird's eye view up on the culinary side, looking southeast into the site. And so what you'll see is the the winery is here, the cider is here. This is a restaurant here. Village Green is here. The apartments are right here. Amphitheater's here. For sale condos are here, and we see a clip of the hotel back here. This is the main entrance with the sidewalks, crosswalks being shown in there, the walls which are in place there, and here we're proposing a barn type building to house the red tractor, the farm all you might have seen out there over the years. And also we have a what year is that truck? 1949 red pickup truck, which would be all part of this whole entry fee.
So this is described as a barn in the narrative, the red structure to the right. This is going to house a couple of older farm implements, is what you're saying, that's all?
Yeah, and then it's going to serve as, the signage for the project. And, what this is showing is, a concrete patio that could have some tables and chairs out there.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. The concrete patio could be used how?
Yeah, tables and chairs out there.
Well, in other words, is this an event space that you would hold events, or is it just?
No, just more information. That's it.
Okay.
No restroom facilities, just a barn, whole barn. type thing.
More information for what?
It's signage.
Yeah, the idea, I did a fairly large project in Plymouth, Mass, and we identified it with a barn and then put the name on it, Pine Hills. Very, very clean, no traditional signs that you would see at Hudson Heritage that goes up and lists it. We try to fit it in there. So we thought it would be an appropriate way to identify the project.
Sorry for being a little slow.
And this walkway that comes up here will break through the wall and have, the sidewalk go, into it. There are other kind of cool things that we're thinking about doing, but as we move forward, we can get into that.
Can you speak closer into the microphone with the masks? It's a challenge. Thank you. I know you're.
Or you can also use the handheld.
Oh, okay.
That's true, sorry.
Oh.
Well, that's it for us. Now, I did want to go back to the site plan and be available for your comments.
Okay, is that sufficient for everyone to get started? I'd ask that we sort of got right into the details on this one. Let me first then start with consultants. Andy?
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot to say about this at this time. We do ask that, I believe the original, I think it was a master plan for the project included a comparison for existing stormwater flow rates and potential conceptual flow rates for the proposed development. And I noticed in one of the reports you said you expected it to be about the same, but we'd like to see an update to
Okay.
that analysis to be included. I don't know that we're talking about it right now, but we also want to make sure that there's emergency access available for each phase. It looked like in your map you were anticipating that. But that's the other thing that we were really concerned about. And then
Okay.
I think we're looking for maybe some updated traffic information. I believe we were going to review that. So
Are your comments written down? Or-
we don't have a written comment letter.
Oh,
right now.
okay.
That's all?
That's it.
Mr. Logan, any comments?
Not at this time. As you know, there's a discussion of a potential SEIER resolution. I'll talk about that later.
You can actually talk about that real quickly now because we plan to take action to circulate. And I had some questions earlier about the nomenclature utilized. Can you explain why we're circulating for lead agency again?
Well, Jennifer is probably more up to date on the history of this project than I am, but my understanding is when the PUD concept plan was first considered, the town board served as the lead agency. Then, as the planning board started looking at the final development approvals for different phases of the project, the planning board then took over as lead agency, and lead agency was reestablished. Now we are going back to the PUD, and even though the planning board is technically lead agency right now, we want to reestablish or reconfirm that the planning board is going to continue serving as lead agency as we look at this amendment.
Speak away, Ms. Ventile.
Thank you very much. Sorry to be late this evening.
No, it's my fault.
The
I
customary
apologize.
37 traffic lights between Fishkill and here are even worse than the driving right now. What Patrick said is absolutely correct. The circulation is really to confirm the position of the planning board as the lead agency for the entire SEIER review of the amended plan. That would include all aspects of the project that would support the ultimate finding of a concept development plan approval by the town board, as well as the final development plan, AKA site plan or subdivision by this board, and permits by any other agency. So we agree that it's appropriate to circulate. And
Thank
it's
you.
something that's actually provided for also in the PUD section of the code.
Agree, thank you. Ms. Moss, comments? Any?
Microphone, please.
Can you grab the microphone?
I don't like this thing. The first time through the development, where I believe the restaurants are in the St. Andrews area on the corner, that was a wastewater treatment plant. And the access point for that was authorized, I believe, only because it was a limited time use. I don't know whether there were site distance problems or, I don't know what the problems were, but I think that's something that you should look into.
Just to clarify, you're referring to the entrance from St. Andrews Road? From St. Andrews Road?
To the proposed restaurant.
Okay, thanks.
St. Andrews Road is legislatively a limited access road, and I believe it requires both approval of DCDPW as well as an action by the county legislature to create new openings on it. So that will have to go through, but we're circulating tonight, so that's why it'll go to DCDPW. Which reminds me, I wonder if we should add Dutchess County Legislature to this, if they have to take action. We may need to do a little work on that to make sure. Okay, let me start to my left. Ms. Weiser, comments?
Okay. So I do actually like the idea of using the barn as signage rather than traditional signage, but I just don't know how it works with our code. It's a great idea.
Okay.
Just saying I like it. In general, I'm just glad you guys are back here. I think it's a great project. It's really exciting. I think the agri-hood concept is wonderful, perfect for the site and perfect for Hyde Park. All the visual examples you provided are impeccable, and I thank you for presenting such a strong vision in this design guidelines.
Yeah.
My main concerns are with building height and length for the rental, standalone, and loft apartments. So I'll start with the loft apartments. I don't see the need for 51 feet in height. If you have first floor retail with a height of 20 feet, and then 2 subsequent loft apartments, 10-foot, with 10-foot ceilings each. This is a 3-story building. You're looking at ceiling height of 40 feet. Unless you're suggesting a 4-story building, you shouldn't need more than a height of 46 feet for the loft apartments. I also want to point out that in all your concept imagery and renderings, the loft buildings show no more than 3 stories in height. So that's what we're kind of expecting and seeing here. Regarding the standalone apartments, the same observation applies. How does the 51 feet in height play out? For 3 stories with 1-story parking, and I emphasize mostly below grade, I don't see how you need more than 46 feet. Also, in the amended PUD concept plan on page 18, with the maximum height states 51 feet, and the notes say height does not include parking below first floor. So that's inconsistent with, you're saying you've got 51 feet and that doesn't include parking. Regarding the length, the proposed maximum length of 300 feet is just massive. It's basically a football field. You responded to the town's request to limit the length to 200 feet would prevent creating the scale and sense of place. I don't get a sense of place from an immense 300-foot building, even with articulation. And except for the comments I have to Bonnie for Dr. Gardner, that's all I have right now.
Thank you. Mr. Pickett?
Couple items. One is, you have community parks built in. I wasn't able to get the details in it, but do you have several community parks built in the different areas like the Village, Crescent, or?
Yes, we can identify those.
Okay. Well, would they have like covered social areas, tables, barbecues, restrooms, water, trash, things like that?
Okay.
Playground equipment?
Just for, creates more of a community atmosphere. Will you have water features in the Village or the St. Andrews area?
Well, I didn't, what was that?
I'm sorry, will you have water features in the St. Andrews and that area? It's just an observation that would be nice. Next one, with regards to security, do you plan on having cameras throughout the, either the Village or the Ridge or, up on poles for security type?
They'd be limited, yeah.
Okay. And these days with everything that's going to have a chip, the idea of you're going to have, I assume, a good Wi-Fi system or connections for Wi-Fi, because everything's going more that way, and they've got systems how you can build.
Can you speak closer to the mic so we can hear you at
Yeah,
this
you
end?
can build for continued scale up, to make it less cost in the long run. And then the other one, which is maybe more personal, are you in the homes going to offer charging for EVs? Charging for EVs, will that be an option?
We're in
or
discussion with Tesla as well as NYSERDA for the charging. We're trying to get the superchargers, which they said they would do once a certain level, but
Right.
destination chargers as well as NYSERDA has chargers for us too.
and maybe offer them in the homes or apartments, or
Well, each
as an
home's
option?
individual to have their own destination
Right.
charger. They won't get a
Okay.
supercharger because that's the commercial use, but we're planning on getting Tesla superchargers as well as NYSERDA chargers, destination chargers. But each home doesn't get a supercharger. That's just
Right, that's out. Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Wasser?
Okay, thanks. I am also glad to see you back here with this project. I want to first reiterate Ms. Weiser's opening comments about the architecture, and I could not express it better than she did, so I agree with all her opening comments about the things that I think are best about this concept. I'm going to focus on inconsistencies with the Bellefield Plan Development District that really concern me. So preserving existing natural beauty, and I see on some of the renderings we saw tonight, the trees, a lot of trees removed, and they're not all consistent from rendering to rendering. I know they're renderings, but the amount of trees along Route 9 don't seem sufficient, or the screening, and they seem different in different renderings. This is our gateway, and it's 1 mile of frontage, as pointed out in your own report. And I think elevations and renderings, how it would look from across Route 9. You have one from the CIA, which I really don't care for because of the height of the buildings, but I'll get to that in a minute. And even from the river, and even across the river, because when we're on the river, when we look across the river, we see some pretty large developments over there. So I think that matters a great deal. This is the Hudson Valley. It's not just Hyde Park. And I also believe that the 150, the setbacks should hold, the setbacks from the original plan. I just want to see. So one example, for example, when I asked for the renderings across Route 9, the proposal specifically says there'll be views of the village across open fields from Route 9. But this is the densest part of your proposal. So I don't really think we should be looking across open fields to the kind of density you're proposing, which I also don't support, but I'll get there. Additional heights. I don't feel that 4-story heights are consistent with the community. We don't have 4-story residential buildings really, nor for convenience type retail 20-foot ceilings or 10-foot ceilings even for rental. I have a very nice home. I don't even have 10-foot ceilings in my home. So I don't think that the heights requested are required. I do support 2.5 stories over a level of parking, as long as, depending on topography and screening. Density. So the density from the previous plan is 51%, as you stated in your own documents. In the village itself, it's increased further to greater than 10 dwelling units per acre. And in the terrace, your density is at 5 dwelling units per acre. So that's, I think, more dense than, it's definitely much more dense than what you proposed, and it's not something that I support. The housing commercial ratio, the material stated that the housing density is necessary to support the reduced commercial. And to me, that seems like the tail wagging the dog. And we have 300,000 people that live in Dutchess County. And I'd like to hear your comment about, don't you think that they will also be supporting the commercial? I don't think building residential is a reason just to support the commercial. Bulk. Ms. Weiser spoke to this already. 100-foot maximum length is currently in the PUD standards. The Crescent Hotel itself is as long as 2 football fields without a massing break. The multifamily rentals would be equivalent to 1 football length without a massing break. So I have an issue with that as well. And the hotel also, 75 feet. It says 5 stories, but 75 feet is equivalent of a 7-story building. So that's a pretty big building, 2 football fields long. Parking garages are not appropriate for this district. Multi-level garages are not in the PUD standard or the green belt, underlying green belt. And 25 feet between buildings remains, but here you are requesting greater massing, bulk, density, and without increasing distances between the buildings. Phasing. Over 15 to 20 years. This could be a semantics issue, I don't know, but I don't care if you call them construction sequences. Sequencing, depending on market conditions, is phasing. Community character. There's so much that could be said about how I don't feel this fits in community character. I'm going to leave some further time for my colleagues who may want to comment on that, but I consider 844 dwelling units in a community this size, which is 8%, equal to 8% increase in our entire town population, a significant impact. You made a comment about the transfer of development rights, requesting the transfer of development rights for the residential, and I understand it provides flexibility for you over a 15 or 20-year horizon, but I have no idea what we're going to end up with. Lastly, whatever the final mix, height and density is ultimately approved, I do support as much shared parking as feasible. So I think that's enough for now.
Thank you. That was very thorough. Ms. Dexter?
Glad you're back. I want to thank my colleagues, excellent comments. So maybe you could put up the overview of the site. Thank you. So I just have questions and some concerns. I do not have the level of detail that my two colleagues over there have. So one of my questions is, when we talk about an agri-hood, how are you defining it, and what is, because there's so few of them, that would be very interesting, the market studies and all that. You're going to have a chance and opportunity to help define what an agri-hood is. So when you look at this, I want it to speak to me as and saying, this is different because it's an agri-hood, and it's an agri-hood that does what? So I've heard vineyard. Sounds great. That sounds definitely like, but is that the only thing? So, talking about an agri-hood, and if that's this sale, you want to try to make this different from some of the other major projects that are going on, and I think you've got good legs on it. But what is the agri-hood? Can you point to it? When I pull in, what's telling me I've just entered an agri-hood? If I'm living there, what is it about it that makes it an agri-hood? So I'd like to see some more of that kind of played out, because when I look, once I get beyond the Village and the next big hotel, the Crescent area, to be honest, all I see are very classic neighborhoods that we have everywhere throughout Dutchess County. Clusters of townhomes, clusters of apartments, clusters. When I think of something that's, to me, agri-hood speaks to an organic type of development, I would want to see like a small cluster of townhomes next to a house. I would like to see more diversity in these neighborhoods, because what ends up happening is, I think they become their own little communities, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I think you get a much stronger community when there's a mix, when it looks like, oh, look, there's an apartment building, and then next to that is, some single houses, and next to that, maybe not to that granular level, but I'm just seeing like right behind it is something called Pine Brook, and that's 136 townhouses. It looks like you picked that up and plopped it in here. It's just another townhouse community. I think you're striving for something that's more, less different, anyway, I'm looking for that kind of, what makes this different? And I think your agri-hood is, but you need to develop that way more than what you've had, because, again, that goes to the marketability. That goes to, why would I want to live here? One of the things that I also think I haven't seen anything mentioned about is an affordable housing component. I've seen, in the market study, I've seen pretty much nothing that I can afford. I make the average salary. I wouldn't be able to move in here. So again, I think talking to the mix and the diversity, you need a full range. If this is an agri-hood where you actually do have little mini farms of types, where are those people going to live? Are they going to have to drive in from 2 hours away because they can't afford to live anywhere close by? So I'd like to see something talking about how this fits into our community, because Hyde Park is not a really wealthy community. We have a nice broad range of diverse economic people in various backgrounds, and I'd like to see the same thing here. That to me is Hyde Park. It runs the gamut. So the marketing that I read on this, all sounded all very similar. I didn't see anything talking to the locals. You're talking about, and I get it, you need to market to people who live on Long Island and Massachusetts. You want them to come here. You want them to buy a second home here. There's a whole market that you're going to try to sell there. But at the same time, don't forget you're living in a community that's then wanting something here that we can call our own. So please don't forget about that. One of my other points is, kind of goes with the whole housing thing. I'd prefer, instead of seeing the ridge all being cookie cutter size lots and the terrace all being the same things, and I'd prefer to see more clustering. And I'd be okay if you had somewhat, not everywhere, but maybe closer to the village, a clustering of taller buildings that are surrounded by open space. And you don't have to go very far to find that. Right across the street at the Culinary is what they did with their campus housing. You can't even hardly see them. They blend right in, but they hold a lot, but all around it is open space. And there's going to be a lot of give and take here. But I don't see clustering. I would really love to see true clustering. The ridge, I think, is prime for that. Instead of just laying everything out in a grid pattern, I'd love to see some clustering where there's a nice big park like on the ridge, that when people go there, they're like, whoa, this is so cool. I can see across the river. And I would like to see this more of a participatory site. And I think that's all my comments for right now.
Thank you, Ann. Mr. Oliver.
So again, I'll echo my colleagues. I appreciate you guys for your presentation. And you also won't hear the extreme detail that you heard from the first three colleagues. But my first question is going to be regarding your viewpoints that you presented earlier. Now, what level of build out are those viewpoints from? Finished phase 2 or total build out?
I think that's just finished phase 2.
Yeah, this shows phase 2A.
Okay.
And B in the background.
So basically, most of those buildings will not be visible from Route 9.
They're significantly, screened and softened with vegetation.
Wait, can you go to the other one you showed from your traveling south on Route 9? And you can see the buildings in through there now.
Yeah. This is the winery here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that they were actually, because when I was looking at it, I'm like, wow, I really didn't see them as much as I thought they were going to be visible.
Right.
Secondly, when I initially dove into this, I was kind of skeptical about the parking garages as well. And then as I kind of envisioned the site and the build out, I don't really see how you could accommodate cars without doing that, without having expansive asphalt, which, I don't think I would like to see that. So, I'm a little different. I don't mind the parking garages because of the way you did them with the illustrations in your narrative, how, they were screened, they had green roofs, it seemed.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice way to incorporate a different element into our community and into our town. And lastly, I think, I really think this project's going to be huge for our town. And although we have changed the concept plan, I think it's for the better. And I think with the current times and how the markets are changing, and I don't want to get hung up on the old plan or the reduced density, because I think that it's imperative for a project of this scale to be successful. And the last thing I want to see as a resident of Hyde Park is for someone to come to the town, invest millions of dollars, and because of the density or the layout or whatever element it is, it ends up failing at year 8 or year 9 because it's just, the scale of this project is huge. It's bigger than anything we've seen in our town, as Michael pointed out in the introduction, and I don't want our town to lose the benefits we could see from it over things that I believe, done correctly, can make this project one of the best in New York State. So thank you.
Well said, Chris. Thank you. Ms. DiNapoli?
Again, I will echo, welcome back. It's good to see all of you, and you look healthy and well, and we've all survived so far. I also am going to echo my colleagues who did phenomenal presentations along the way, those with great details and those that had the general aspect. And I agree with all of them. I'm going to skip around a little bit. On the economic fiscal impact, on page 1, the summary of results, it said that if results are expected to bring in new households and employees to Hyde Park, and if their housing is considered luxury, which is what I kept reading as I was going through this, that this was high-end luxury. As one of my previous colleagues had questioned, where are people who are the employees living? There's no indication of any workforce housing at all. And in a project this large, that is something that really needs to be considered, not just in one area, but across the board of the entire project. There should be a percentage of workforce housing, because that truly would then help represent the locals. You know, you don't want to build something that's for the people coming into town, but the locals cannot participate. On page 3, it states that it will be completed over several years, about 10 years. But how do you come up with your numbers when you don't know the cost of labor and materials that you're making your determination on, particularly because it was so obvious over the last year with how prices have just skyrocketed? No one could have foreseen that, and it's no one's fault. But on page 1 and page 2, if the New York State tax collected as a result of new jobs, this is not included. How can it be said that the net fiscal benefit total for Hyde Park over 10 years is going to be $9.3 million? Where does that get plugged in? And the last thing I want to quote from the studies are on page 4 of the Weitzman marketing study. The residential market and demand analysis states that the median sales price for townhomes has decreased over the last 5 years at a compound annual rate of -3.5. And that is the only one that was decreasing, where all the others are increasing. But you're planning a large section of townhomes. I was just trying to square that thought. Or you're hoping for a trend upwards, I would assume. To speak of the setback, I totally agree. It needs to stay at 150 feet. To pick on Ms. Dexter's comment about what is agrihood, something I did not know until you came before us, and I've done some, investigating of the different projects that I've seen, and they're fabulous looking. Most of them are in the south, where the growing season is longer, and so that I could see having an impact on an operation here in the northeast. And to help you point out, and they all talk about, these other agri-hoods talk about, yes, a winery, but they're talking about farming and vegetable farms. And if that could be incorporated, that's an agri-hood interspersed around. And I still have a major issue with the density. As I said at the group meeting that we had with the town board, the amount of people that will be coming into this is more than what is the town population of the town of Tivoli. And they are more than twice the size of this property. That's a lot of density. And aside from that, I am really happy to see yous back. I really am. It's a wonderful project, and I know it's going to be fabulous once we work out these minor little details.
So, Michael, I just had one more question. Larry, can you show us the, this looking south on Route 9?
Yeah.
That,
Oh, I gotta flip over here.
so will we see the hotel?
Not from here.
Okay,
Now, if I go down to here, the hotel's right here.
okay. Thanks.
Okay, so there was a lot of valuable comments in through there. I'm going to be as detailed as the first speakers.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or not, I'll just plow on through, and I will send you a copy of this when I'm done. The biggest difference in the concept plan seems to be the increase in the residential use, from 53% of total square footage or gross square footage to 62%, and a consequent reduction in non-residential from 47 to 38. Most people think of residential as commercial, or residential versus commercial, but Bellefield's zoning does not. So it appears that agricultural buildings proposed as 3 stories tall, an event barn, an amphitheater, and 3-story educational buildings are included in the non-residential total. This project is supposed to expand the town, or build, quote unquote, the town's commercial tax base, rather than loading it up with residential uses only. But how do ag buildings, an event barn, an amphitheater expand it? I don't know how you would tax the amphitheater, I don't know how you would tax the event barn, even though the event barn is listed as commercial space, and more on that later. Office and destination retail have been drastically reduced, and that may be necessary because of the economy now. But convenience retail is now envisioned, i.e. dry cleaners, nail salons, services that residents will want. This impacts the fiscal impacts formerly offered. Educational buildings and farm fields are listed as tax exempt. And by the way, there's throughout the application there references to a residential total of 1,307,742 square feet of residential uses and 820,578 square feet of commercial. But again, some portion of the area does not seem to be commercial in the conventional sense of the word, at least tax-wise. As part of this, it's been asserted that the residential increase is necessary to complement the commercial program. However, as Ms. Weiser just pointed out, you have plenty of residential uses throughout this county. And this is supposed to, another criteria for Bellefield is to draw people from the surrounding areas around Hyde Park. What you're doing now in the retail is making sure that no one wants to come there, because I can use a dry cleaner anywhere, probably more convenient to my house. I can use a nail salon more convenient to my house. You're now relying on the agri-food elements, which I think are the winery, the distillery, the various restaurants, to be the draw. And these are great draws, but I'm not sure that we haven't lost something in through here in terms of being a real draw to the area. The next big change would be that almost all the increase in residential uses is multifamily rental apartments. You're requesting 4 stories of a height of 51 feet. However, you're also requesting the underground parking and asking that it not be counted into height calculations. Car storage is an accessory use to the residential use, and I'll maintain that it should be included in every instance where it's proposed. You're also able to store things down in parking areas, and the way our code envisions building height measured is it's the mean when you're on a slope. So it wouldn't necessarily be, because you're having an opening on one side, it's disguised on the other, you wouldn't necessarily have to add the entire height to the building. I think that'll give us a better idea of what the actual building heights will look like. And the town board will need to weigh in on the visual impacts. It is noted by your team that the CIA across Route 9 has many tall buildings, but most are 3-story and do not have parking garages underneath them. In addition, the area disturbance proposed is significantly larger than the compact CIA's campus. There will be taller buildings sited on higher slopes, whereas the CIA campus slopes downward as you enter from Route 9. So the height there really isn't comparable to what you're going to see on the other side of the road, just because of all the grade changes, despite what's asserted. Then new uses are proposed, including the event barn, membership club, commercial recreation, animal husbandry, agriculture, and food manufacturing. The food manufacturing, I had to sort of dig into, but actually on your own website to figure out what that is, because it's being marketed that way. I don't know that the food manufacturing has been calculated into the traffic study. I didn't see anything about trucks going in and out every day to bring in jams, jellies, it could be grain, whatever you're going to be making there. Again, I have no objection to these new uses. It's just that I'm not sure that we have a good idea in terms of seeker, how that really impacts traffic. Also, the membership club, I don't know where that is specifically. I couldn't really find it. It's mentioned that the residential uses are going to be serviced by gyms, spa. Does that mean that you have to become a member to join it, or has that just been thrown in there for the future, kind of any kind of use as well? Animal husbandry, would this be the one that's, oops. Would animal husbandry be taking place at the main farm, which I believe is right there? Is that what's proposed, or is it proposed throughout? At any rate, I didn't see commercial recreation proposed either. Our code defines it very specifically as where you would pay to go to, say, golf, batting cages, et cetera, amusement parks. I don't see an area for this, so I'm just wondering what the use of commercial recreation actually is. Needs to be more explained, in other words. And then there's also last proposed that there's a catch-all called other incidental uses in support of the overall development. Personally, I think that's vague and should be deleted. If new uses not now envisioned are appropriate to the site in the future, the applicant should return and amend the concept development plan again. Then the second hotel does not represent a new use per se, but the originally approved comprehensive development plan had only one hotel, and it was to be the only tall building. You're asserting that because one was allowed, that the second should be the same height as the first one, at 75 feet tall. However, that does not support the claim inside the narrative that the overall impression one gets will be a low-rise, small-town center. As was pointed out by my colleagues, that hotel is going to be really huge. It's the size of, I think you said, 3 football fields. That's really big, and at 75 feet, that is not a low-rise, small-town character. Again, I have no objections to a second lodging. I think that's great, but I don't think that as it's envisioned right now that it seems sort of to be part of the Hyde Park character has also been pointed out, because the only tall buildings we have are the CIA and a water tower. Then there's under 31,000 square feet listed as restaurants. The fourth bullet point lists artisanal food manufacturers. Again, that's listed as part of restaurants. I think we need more clarity as to how much restaurant use you're looking to have on there, which I hope and pray is a lot, as opposed to actual, so they're purveying meals on premises versus, again, making pasta, jellies, roasting coffee, et cetera, just so that the town board has a better idea of what's really conceptually in through here. Larry, you may have missed it because you were doing something when I was speaking, but when I list page numbers, I was told that the draft ones we received for the joint town board, planning board meetings were the same as what we received for the actual application. As it turns out, this is a little different once it got bound. So when I do pages, some of the page numbers changed when I looked at that one, and I apologize because I'd already started marking this one up before the next meeting, and I just never stopped. So I have on here, page 1 has 774,320 square feet of non-residential commercial uses. The number that I also saw later, or saw on page 32, was a different number. That was 820,578. The difference is 46,250 square feet, and I believe that seems to be related amenity space for the residential use. So I'm questioning how that's non-residential or not, or it's commercial. In addition, you have labeled that you have 437 keys. That would be 137 keys previously approved for the Inn at Bellefield, the extended stay, and the remaining hotel would have 300 rooms. So that makes 437, but you also have 32 hotel villas, which I think are keyed as well. So wouldn't that mean a total of 469 keys? I mean, unless if the villas are to be rented. I think that's what that means. There's a trail system that's designed to link to off-site town-wide existing and future proposed trail systems leading to FALLKILL. My question is where are these actual connections? The trails seem to lead to that entry and exit in the middle of St. Andrews or north of the restaurant. But then you'd have to cross over the other Bellefield property that does not have any trails on it whatsoever, or you'd be required to walk down St. Andrews, cross St. Andrews, head north on Route 9 to connect to the trails, or you'd have to go walk up St. Andrews and walk down 9G where there are no sidewalks to connect to them. So I think it's important, and here I'm going to say it again, because it'll appear later on, but there's supposed to be a sidewalk or some path that goes from the heart of the village, you just can't see it much in through there, yep, over to this corner intersection at St. Andrews.
Right.
Because there's going to be a pedestrian walkway over, and the sake manufacturer will have a sidewalk leading to that corner. So the only way they can really connect to the trails is if they go along and go down or cross St. Andrews at the actual intersection with Route 9. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to be able to exist. And I'll also note that the original concept plan accomplished that not just by creating the trails, but there was also a proposed shuttle bus service operated jointly with the National Park Service to take people from here, particularly people from the hotel, and get them over to the National Park Service sites. That's no longer proposed, and that may have never happened anyway. It may have just probably been pie in the sky. Overall visual character. While the layout appears to generally conform with our zoning requirements, it does not fully comply with the building and parking setback along Route 9 of 150 feet, because they're now a structure within this, of the barn, and if everybody likes it, and the town board does too, then great, but there's not supposed to be any structures within that 150 feet. For that matter, it was, in the last FEIS, the 150 feet was supposed to have lush and lavish landscaping added back in, so that this would be, the experience would still be that you would be driving along Route 9 and feel what we feel right now, a green space. Then when you entered into the space, you'd be opened up with mystery and awe into the site. You're not proposing something entirely different. You're proposing things that will be visible all along Route 9. And while I think this is attractive architecture, I think it's a better concept plan in that sense, I still think that you're opening this up to it looking like what the rest of Route 9 looks like, just a better quality of architecture, and that is development. Just more development without keeping that sort of psychic green space along the way. In addition, enhanced landscaping should be provided to me because it complies with the secret finding statements originally, and also the following related zoning sections. The Albany Post Road Corridor Study regarding significant landscaping at page 11. The Bellefield PDD purpose and character in 108-3.11 K1 and 2. Site development plan standards in 108-4.5E 1B3 and 108-4.5 F1 regarding landscaping. And Bellefield PDD standards in 108-5.12 B1 F and B12. The proposed fields look nice, but since you have a main farm, I'm wondering if you can't expand the fields or relocate the fields to another area of green inside the space so people who live there could experience it as well, and not just have those of us driving by see it. Throughout the narrative, it is noted that the new multifamily rentals will add housing diversity. The Weitzman Market Report claims that households earning the county's median income can afford these rentals, but it also claims that there's a sizable market for second home rentals coming from New York City. The justification for the underground parking and the taller heights include development aesthetics, contemporary design, and market demand. Hyde Park's housing stock, to me, is not diversified by adding luxury rentals to luxury purchase to own. The prior concept development plan included 23 affordable housing, meaning that the sales price would accommodate families earning up to 80% of the county's median income, as is noted in the FEIS. Is there a similar guarantee for these rentals that some will not be at market rate? 10-foot ceilings are, I believe, proposed for the multifamily, which would seem to add more cost to the units and therefore making the rental costs higher. When I read the report, it appeared to me as though that the only really place that you could afford to rent would be in the lofts above the space, which are really tiny. And affordable housing should also be made available to entire families. My next point, will any housing be affordable for sale or rent? I believe that affordable housing, as limited as it was added because of impacts to community character, as Ms. Dexter brought up. Hyde Park is essentially mixed income, and our median income is less than the county's. Per capita income in this town is only $36,000 a year. Will residents who work there be able to afford to own and rent should they so desire? Next, you're seeking a temporary increase of residential development up to 72% during construction. And no offense, but given the lack of vertical construction on the hotel, makes me worried that we could ultimately see only housing built at the site because you'd be allowing it temporarily if the commercial does not develop, cannot find financing, or you cannot find tenants. You are also asking to reserve the ability to request even greater increases in the proportion for residential by seeking approval from the town board, though how that process would work is not explained, and to me it should be. Next, new provisions for measuring height are being sought so that all the underground parking would not count. Again, to me, it should be because it's usable space, even if not habitable. I applaud that you've reduced the number of parking spaces down from the original 3,892. And that's been done by eliminating underground parking, but proposing at least one parking garage, probably two. I agree with Chris, that's a good idea, and it makes it a lot better than seeing expansive asphalt. Next, the construction sequence is proposed to be completed in 6 sequences over 15 to 20 years. The fiscal impact study should reflect this as the same one as the prior plan detailed. The EDC study noted that we would be getting a total of, I think it was 245,000 in year 1 and up to 900 or 495,000 in year 10. If they could do it then, this can be done by Camoin now. For seeker issues, the event barn and the amphitheater. I can't find any details on how these will be used. Are there going to be concerts and performances? Food festivals like the pictures used for marketing the site. Table H trip generation chart does not break these uses out, and we will need more information in order to assess traffic impacts. I want to just say straight out, I'm all for these uses. I think it's great to have more people coming here. I think it'd be great to have food festivals, concerts, performances. It'd be fantastic. But we should evaluate and understand how this will affect traffic for residents as well as people who are coming to these events. And so far, I think that's lacking. I think it's necessary before seeker. So in saying this, the question is can anyone or any entity rent the barn and amphitheater? What is the potential for different events to occur frequently or simultaneously? Again, the event barn is listed as part of the commercial uses. But overall, I do agree that there'll be less trips generated at peak times because of the switch to residential from commercial. Next, I have noted on page 73, which again may be the wrong page, it is noted that item 4, which is the installation of a landscaped island to create a right turn only lane onto St. Andrews Road, is not needed as a capacity improvement. That's a quote. As I recall, this is a New York State Department of Transportation requirement will need to be discussed with DOT personnel as the applicant appears to be requesting that it be eliminated. Again, if memory serves, and Ann and I were here, it was designed to make it easier for residents wishing to use the St. Andrews entry to use their homes. Instead of requiring them to drive into Route 9 and then navigate through all the commercial areas, it's a lot easier that way. And to have the new lane would make it easier for residents. In other words, it might help you market the site. Although I do agree with your comment that it would make it even harder to cross St. Andrews at that location. Recreation, as Brent brought up, the prior concept development plan specified that public and pocket parks would be open to all residents and would include playground equipment. The latter is never cited here, so I'm just wondering how much equipment will be there meant to appeal to children and teenagers. Next, community character, page 57. Quote, the goal of the proposed development was identified on page 12 of the 2017 finding statement. Provide a new gateway presence to the town of Hyde Park, close quotes. To this end, the project design includes, quote, an approximately 250-foot setback with substantial landscaping and vegetative buffer to provide a visible separation from the development and the roads. That's from the original finding statement. That's from the newer finding statement. I don't see that there's that separation and substantial landscaping and vegetative buffer to separate the development from the roads. Do I think it looks nice and pretty? Yes, but it really essentially creates, not to me a gateway to the town, but a new town. And that's a nice design, but I don't know that it's providing a gateway that's still going to lead you into the center of Hyde Park. This is almost becoming its own center. I forgot to mention that in terms of traffic, the Camoin study estimated that there would be 238 students generated by the housing, whereas in your narrative it shows 246 students. The Camoin report, I believe, said that 70% would go to private school, but you have listed that 170 would go to public school. The traffic impacts, buses will not go up private roads. They won't. Their policy is that it's a liability issue. So do you need to take into account the frequency of people driving their kids to school and back? Or do you want to try to create some area that there would be one bus pickup for students or what? I'm not sure that's been thought out. And I know some of these are getting into the details. They're still part of the concept plan. To me, the visual assessment that you provided still indicates there'll be little separation, as I said, from the development, because you're also removing undergrowth and existing trees to accommodate the farm fields. Affordability, as Ann said again, for seeker, I'll bring this issue up again. Where will the persons who maintain these fields and the agriculture in this site reside? When I read the marketability study, the residential design, quote, needs to be similar to upscale resorts. Actually, that Weitzman marketability study seemed to be focused more heavily on selling and renting dwelling units rather than developing and marketing the commercial uses. To me now, a lot of these seems more afterthoughts for how the residents will stay happy in the agri-hood. That's not a bad thing to do, but that wasn't to me the purpose and the goal of Bellefield in the first place, which was to promote tourism and to get more people to come and stay here. You have 2 hotels, so it achieves that goal to me. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just that to me now, this really is a different concept plan. As I've said before, I know that Mr. Mulroy hates it when I say this, but this seems sort of like a gated community just without the gates. And that doesn't seem very representative of the town that I've come to know and love. The original finding statement on page 8, included in the landscape plan will be either a sidewalk from the intersection of the access road with Route 9 to the intersection of St. Andrews Road and Route 9, or in the alternative, an internal pedestrian route connecting the same 2 intersections. I still don't see this pedestrian route shown on the concept plan. I want to see something. If you're going to say that it's just the sidewalks that lead you to St. Andrews and you have to walk down, just tell me that. But right now, there's been discussion. Originally, there was a discussion of putting along Route 9. That went out of the way when we had the hotel, and probably for a good reason, because there's that swale there. But there's still nothing that links me from this point to what you call St. Andrews. And that was always supposed to be an integrated site, not one that has separated that you have to drive to get to one place or another. For that matter, the narrative also asserts that the 2021 proposed project will provide the connection between the CIA and the Saki facility to create a quote-unquote culinary corridor. I can see that mentally and visually, but I'm not seeing it in terms of physicality. I'm not seeing how there's a connection, again, to Saki to get back around and use this site by pedestrians. That's pretty much it for, sorry, my comments. I had separate ones on the Camoin report that were sent to Ms. Franson, who is combining all hours into one to be sent to CGR. But in general, the one thing that really frustrates me is that the assertion that comes throughout is that we'll be getting $9-point-something million in, over 10 years. But that assumes that you have full build-out at year 1. That's a ridiculous assumption. Let me make sure I say that again. That is a ridiculous assumption to utilize. There's not going to be full build-out at year 1. So the Camoin report says that it's trying to prove that there will be positive fiscal impacts. The one thing missing is it didn't say when that will start. I still don't know, and I read that report over and over again. So while my tone sounded probably pejorative, I want to end by saying that I still think it's a great project. Like Chris said, like Ann said, I think it's exciting, and I think that there's a lot it's going to do for our community. I'm just trying to point out that the concept has changed, and we want to make sure that this integrates into the character of the community as well, while still attracting tourists. And again, for my sort of main purpose as chair, trying to run this through, I think we need more information in terms of SEIER, particularly, as I said, traffic, because there's a lot of uses in here that are vaguely defined. And again, if you're I believe that you're saying that people will also come to experience and see the farms too, what's grown there. There's not really a traffic impact associated with that either. Maybe there's nothing that you can say about that. But if this is going to be as unique as what I know Tom is envisioning, then you may get what I'll just call gawkers coming to see the site. Maybe they can't afford to shop or use any of the restaurants, et cetera, but you may just get people coming in to see what it's like. I know Serenbe that you first told us about, Tom, is much larger than this site. I think it's 1,500 acres in total, and therefore has larger farms. And as Diane mentioned, there's a longer growing season down there. But I don't think that really limits so much here. I can't remember her name from Howerton, pointed out that you can expand sort of the growing season here by looking at, say, production of maple syrup. Maybe you tap the trees there, and then maybe that's actually produced in the food production, the food manufacturing. But again, I just want to get a handle more on what's being proposed. I know that some of this is my fault, because when Tom first said we're going to revise the concept plan, I said, oh, let's just do a big picture sort of thing, because I thought it was going to more or less stay the same. I think this is a fundamental change in the concept. That's what I've been trying to sail along. So again, I'd like to get this thing started. That's why we're going to circulate tonight. And I don't expect you to have answers to anything I said tonight. Like I said, I'll email you my comments. Anybody else who wrote up their comments, we can email them as well to make it easier for you. How's that? Comments from you guys?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Obviously, Paul spent a great deal of time reviewing the plan, and I was desperately taking notes, but we certainly appreciate emails repeating because there are a lot of specifics. So we do welcome the circulation and getting the SEIER process started. That's where we are, and that's the board's next some type of a communication gap, because we're madly in love with this project. We think it's the greatest thing for Hyde Park, and it's going to be wonderful. And obviously, it's our job as the applicants to convince you of that and give you the documentation that will show that. And I think your comments show that you all believe that there's great potential in this project, things that are good for the town, and we will confront the issues that you've raised, that I think have all been raised in good faith, and do our best to respond to them. And we're very dedicated to moving forward. As Tom has said, the uses that he's told you about are not pie in the sky conceptualism. There are real tenants, real people that want to come to Hyde Park. And as Diane said, things are changing. We're in a landscape where things are changing very quickly, and we would very much like to take advantage of the real opportunities when they're here. And we know that to do that, we have to, it's our job to get responses back to you quickly so that we can process them. So I hope you'll take what I next say with that understanding. We are going to do everything in our power to respond to all your comments in 2 weeks. And that's going to mean that Tom and I and Larry and Nicole and Nick, we're going to spend a lot of time together in the next few weeks. So we're going to do our best to do that, but we won't submit unless we're convinced that we've done an excellent professional job of responding to your comments and engaging with them in terms of bulk, mass, scale, as well as the specifics of your comment, all of your comments. So with that, we would hope that we could be scheduled for the October 6th meeting.
I don't see why not, unless you don't get us the materials in time.
Hopefully then the circulation will be completed. We have a great good luck here that the period of time between this meeting and the first meeting in October is well more than 30 days, and often it's annoyingly just under 30 days, preventing confirmation of lead agency. But I don't think that there's any question whether this board is going to be designated as lead agency.
I don't either.
I think people are going to be clawing their way to this august duty. So I appreciate again the time that all of you have really a very deep review of this, and I appreciate the skills that all of you have, a broad range of skills in looking at things, and you respect your knowledge of the town. We come as a collective team that also wants the best for the town. I think you know that Tom cares very deeply about it. He even has a red tractor.
And a red pickup.
And a red pickup truck. So and a farm wheel.
That's right,
Yes.
farm wheel. Yeah.
So I think we both want what's best for Hyde Park and best for this property. We can't keep it all green or it won't have any of the other values that I think we want it to have, but we want it to be exceptionally beautiful. And we think that with responsible development, that makes it an exciting place. That's part of what it is. It's not, we're not just speaking about, and I'm not trying to respond to the comment substantively, but we're not just saying it's X number of residents that are needed to support retail, and that's what we're doing.
We're having a technical problem.
She ran out of juice.
We just changed the battery before this meeting.
Sorry, you're going to have to say all of that.
No.
Maybe this will work. But it's the sense of place. That actually does sound louder. It's the sense of place, the buzz of the place that we're trying to create. And I think there is a way to do that, to make that something that is natural to Hyde Park and something added to Hyde Park, and something that's conceptual, that doesn't feel like it came from outside and landed here. And the tenants that Tom has and that are very excited about coming here are all related to food, to things that come very naturally to the sense of space. So again, We appreciate your candid comments. We're glad that you feel comfortable enough with us to tell us what you really think, and we're going to engage those comments and try to respond to you in a comprehensive way. We also would very much like to receive the fiscal comments that Bonnie's gathering as soon as possible so that we could include those in our response.
Those will be, so the process that I envisioned was that members of the board would send their comments to Bonnie. She would then compile them into a single letter that would be sent to Dr. Gardner at CGR, who would then use those as well as his own review, to peer review, to come back with comments, and he's prepared to come back pretty quickly. So are you saying you want Bonnie's letter that goes to him also sent to you guys, or do you want?
Yeah, we'd appreciate receiving the comments, because I think that's going to help us move forward if we can, get an advanced look at it. Obviously, that's not to prejudge any comments that they will make.
Bonnie's still compiling.
But I think that this way, if we understand.
She's still compiling because she
what
has
the
her own
comments
comments. So, because I said, I don't think we need to have Dr. Gardner read, if we all have the same point, 10 different versions of the same words. So I wanted her to kind of combine them. But we can, whatever her final is, I can get to you very easily. I asked her to try to get that done by Friday, since we're going to appoint the CGR tonight. That way he could get going quickly. But I don't know that she has the bandwidth, the capacity to get it through quite then, but she said she'll definitely get it out by middle of next week. So as soon as she has it ready, I'll make sure it's sent to your team.
Okay, great. Thank
And
you.
also
We
just
appreciate it.
for anybody who's watching on television or listening, the process that we go through on the board is, when you hear these first comments, we try to get as many out as possible, because that way we keep reducing until we get to the approval. And that's, you remember with the hospice house, there were tons of comments at first, and they kept narrowing until we were done and had the approval and had less conditions as well, because that's what we all want to get to, as well as not a lot of conditions on an approval too, as you know. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a quick.
Yeah.
The board in the past has allowed us to have like offline meetings. Would that still be available?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't see why not. I mean, it's harder now when you have all 7 involved in terms of making progress, I think. But definitely we can have offline meetings and offline meetings with the consultants as well.
Okay.
If you want to just directly negotiate with them on any different
Thank you.
specific point. And because some of us will be there at those anyway.
Yep.
So if there's nothing else, I'm going to.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank all of you for your time, Michael, and all the board members, the comments. I would just emphasize timing is really, something we're focused on, key, because there's a lot of things, tenants, what have you, that are putting pressure on us. So any timing, I appreciate working with us on it as well. But thank you again for your time and your comments.
We want this project to go forward as quickly as possible too. It's been around for a long, long time. So this is resolution 2020-29 to circulate lead agency notice and related application seeker materials to all involved and interested agencies relating to the following project. Bellefield at Historic Hyde Park, formerly known as St. Andrews at Historic Hyde Park, September 1st, 2021. Lots of whereases, and thank you, Ms. Van Tile, for beefing it up. I think that was actually a great idea when I thanked you. Whereas this determination is consistent with the provisions of the town zoning law with respect to classification, coordinated review of PUD applications, i.e. 108-7.3C, now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby classifies the project as a type 1 action. 2, declares its intent to serve as lead agency in a coordinated review of the amended project. 3, directs the secretary to provide all involved and interested agencies with notice of its intent to serve as lead agency, along with a copy of the EAF and the SECRA comparison technical report. 4, directs that the lead agency notice contain a link to the filed project plans, which link shall also be posted on the town website.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I'm not going to list all the agencies here because it's a lot. Just everybody. So, and then I believe that Ann will introduce the next resolution.
Bellefield resolution to hire financial consultant, resolution to appoint CGR team as economic consultant to review documents associated with Bellefield PUD revised concept development plan. Resolution number 21-C. Whereas. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby authorizes the chairperson to sign said contract to engage CGR for the application known as Bellefield amended PUD concept development plan approval.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And we'll see you on the 6th, unless you want to meet beforehand.
Thank you very
much.
I do want to just point out, we tentatively have a presentation from the Conservation Advisory Council members on the natural resource inventory that's being conducted. We might want to consider having a special meeting just to meet with them, or we could have a special meeting just to meet with you, because I have been working with them, and it's a lot of presentation, because there's a lot of maps that they're generating. So let me talk to the board about that in the interim, because this is our only meeting for this month. We're not meeting on the 15th in honor of,
Oh, right, that's right, yeah.
in order of,
We'll make ourselves available.
so let me just see what works best with everybody's calendars. It may be, I'd prefer to keep this on with all the other planning board stuff, so maybe we'll just meet with the CAC separately on that. Okay, that gives you more time too.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Great.
Stay safe and dry when you drive home.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your work and your candor. It's much harder to respond to comments when we don't get what you really think. So we really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I need to sign. I need to sign something.
Oh, yeah, you do, actually. I read off one of them.
Thank you. It is.
It's so weird.
Tonight was the night I was really wishing for Zoom.
Comment, hearing and understanding is so difficult.
Tonight was the night I really wished for Zoom. I think it would have been easier to hear each other and all of it.
Yes, that was sort of the high point on the 28th when everybody was in the same room and we were actually active.
Okay, now the next items on the agenda, I think you guys can go. Yes, look, Patrick's already
They're
packed up.
gone. They're so out of here.
Patrick didn't wait for my permission. Thanks for joining us tonight, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us tonight, gentlemen. The next item on the agenda are several resolutions. Hi, hold on.
Okay. Oh, okay, okay.
Good night.
Good night, Andy. Good, good. Good. Okay.
Thank you
That's fine.
very much.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you, Annie. Take care. So then the first resolution is to grant a sign permit for a new tenant in town who's already opened. It's Ulster Savings Bank. They took the place of TD Bank, and we're very happy to welcome
Yes,
that business
yes.
into our community and not have an empty building.
Yay.
I believe Ms. DiNapoli is introducing this one.
Yes, resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3A4D. Resolution number 2021-40, whereas 2 times, be it resolved, the board hereby recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permits for the safety directional signage associated with the drive-through for Ulster Savings Bank on the sign permit application submitted by Paul Betcher.
Biker, like a biker with a T?
Bikert?
Bikert, like a biker, you're a motorcycle biker
Bikert.
with a T.
Okay. For Ulster Savings and Cosmo Town Center LLC.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I just want to point out the signs are all code compliant.
That helps.
The next resolution is Ms. Weiser.
Resolution recommendation for issuance of a sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3A4D, Ulster Savings, north elevation wall sign. September 1st, 2021, resolution number 2021-40A, whereas. Be it resolved, the board hereby grants a relaxation of the standard letter height of 10 inches to 12 inches based on distance, 180 feet, of the wall sign from the access point, and, be it further resolved, the board hereby grants a relaxation of the standard symbol size of 10 inches to 17 inches based on the distance, 180 feet. The wall sign is set back from the access point, and, be it further resolved, the board recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permit for the wall sign over the entrance on the north wall for Ulcer Savings based on the sign permit application submitted by Paul Bikert for Ulcer Savings and Cosimo Town Center LLC dated 7/18/21, and drawing by Paul Bikert of Timely Signs under proposed sign size based on the overall building frontage north elevation dated June 14th, 2021.
Seconded.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And the next resolution is back to Ms. DiNapoli.
Yes. Resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit. Yes. Pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3A4D, Resolution 2021-40B. Whereas 6 times, be it resolved the board hereby grants a relaxation of the standard letter height of 10 inches to 17 inches based on the distance, which is of 180 feet of the wall sign from the access point. And B, be it further resolved, the board hereby grants a relaxation of the standard size, symbol size of 10 inches to 18 inches based on the distance 164 feet. The wall sign is set back from the access point. And be it further resolved, the board recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permit for the west wall sign over the windows of Ulster Savings upon receipt of a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals based on the sign permit application submitted by Paul Bikert for Ulster Savings and Cosimo Town Center LLC dated 7/18/21 and drawing by Paul Bikert for Timely Signs titled Proposed Sign Size Based on Overall Building Frontage, West Elevation dated June 14th, 2021.
Second that?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. A reminder, this was done separately on this one because, as noted in the resolution Tad wrote, it requires a variance, so we have to give them the maximum we can, that they can then go get the rest of the variance from the ZBA. And
It's the Chip and Dale show again.
one more for them. This goes back to Ann.
Okay, resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3A 4D, Ulster Savings, September 1st, 2021, resolution number 2021-40C, whereas, be it resolved, the board hereby recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permit for the tenant panel Ulster Savings based on the sign permit application submitted by Paul Bikert for Ulster Savings and Cosimo Town Center LLC.
Seconded.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously as well. Next item on the agenda is signage for Stop and Shop. Stop and Shop is rebranding from, I think they used to call it a fruit basket sort of
Yeah.
logo, back to the Stop and Shop, back to the stoplight.
Back to the original.
I guess we're going away from the healthy fruit and back to Stop and Shop. Yeah, got it. I wonder how much it costs to do all that branding. Anyway, Ann's got this one?
Resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3A4D. Resolution number 2021-31, whereas now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permits for the 2 freestanding sign panels and the 1 informational wall sign associated with the change to the Stop and Shop logo based on the sign permit application submitted by Christine Moreau of Agnoli Sign Company and Stop and Shop.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3A4D, Stop and Shop, 3999 Albany Post Road, resolution number 2021-31A. Whereas. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby grants a relaxation of the standard letter height of 10 inches to 21 inches based on the distance of 450 feet of the wall sign from the access point. And be it further resolved that the board hereby grants a relaxation of the standard symbol size of 10 inches to 19 inches based on a distance of 450 feet. The wall sign is set back from the access point. And be it further resolved that the board recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permit for the wall sign on the grocery store wall for Stop and Shop based on the sign permit application by Christine Moreau of Agnoli Sign Company, Inc. on June 22nd, 2021.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to Town Code Section 108-24.3A4D, Resolution Number 2021-31B. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby grants a relaxation of the standard letter height of 10 inches to 18 inches based on the distance of 700 feet of the wall sign from the access point. And be it further resolved, the board hereby grants a relaxation of the standard symbol size of 10 inches to 24 inches based on the distance of 700 feet. The wall sign is set back from the access point. And be it further resolved, the board recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permit for the gable end wall at the fueling station for Stop and Shop based on the sign permit application by Christine Moreau of Agnoli Sign Company, Inc. on June 22nd, 2021.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Woo, that was a mouthful for both of you, sets of people. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a site plan waiver for Howard Godnick. I hope I'm saying that correctly. This is my next door neighbor, catty corner across from me, so I'm introducing it to sort of welcome him. Resolution 20-2021-44, September 1st, 2021, site plan waiver per Town Code Section 108-9.4C2. Whereas an application requesting waiver of site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Howard Godnick for property located at 41 Curry Lane, Hyde Park, New York. And whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the file entitled Godnick regarding the specific request as received August 26, 2021, and is identified in the building permit application dated June 9, 2021 for this project.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, a site plan waiver requested by James and Deborah Agrawal.
Yes, site plan waiver, Town Code Section 108-9.4C2, Resolution 2021-45. Whereas an application requesting a waiver of site plan has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by James and Debbie Agrawal for property located 84 River Road, Hyde Park, New York. And whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby conditionally waives site plan requirements for the file entitled Agrawal regarding the specific request as received August 30th, 2021, and as identified in the building permit application dated August 20th, 2021 for this project, subject to the following condition. 1, the applicant plant 5 to 6 evergreens such as boxwoods or other deer-resistant evergreen agreeable to the zoning administrator along the east side of the generator for screening.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Next up, we have several planning board meeting minutes. And as the person who initially read through all three, I once again want to compliment our persistent and fabulous secretary for doing these because, but it's also really helpful. I can go back through and read now, like before Bellefield, I could go back through and read and say what happened at the last Bellefield meeting. That it's really helpful to have it sort of verbatim this way. So at any rate, thank you, Cynthia. And who has the first
I do.
motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the planning board meeting minutes for July 7th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'll make the motion to accept the planning board's meeting minutes for July 21st, 2021.
I second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Oliver abstains because he's not present that night. And last, we have the planning board minutes of August 4th.
I will make the motion to approve the planning board meeting minutes for August 4th, 2021.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Make it a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be much later.
Yeah, me too.